Fire them up. Yep, we are locked and loaded on this Wednesday. All sorts of stuff is kicking off. We are the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYAB, and we're streaming on Rumble. We're streaming on X. We're streaming on YouTube, and we're streaming on the mothership that is WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch that is 1039, you can always like, share, and subscribe to our streams. We really appreciate that. Follow me on X. It's just at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. And the phone number today, if you want to be part of the show, we're going to have lots to talk about. 601-879-0002. Text line is open. 601-879-5060. No matter what the topic is, the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. And just a lot of Deuteronomy going on today. A lot of Deuteronomy. Judges going off everywhere. And I have things that I wanted to talk about yesterday that I didn't get to. We are going to get to those things today because I feel it's important. But the place we got to start, Trump arrives at U.S. Supreme Court to attend arguments on bid to limit birthright citizenship. And I'm getting this from Ground News. The U.S. Supreme Court is hearing arguments on an exclusive executive order signed by President Donald J. Trump, 2025, restricting birthright citizenship to children born in the United States to unauthorized or temporary immigrants, challenging the longstanding interpretation of the 14th Amendment. Yep, and it's going crazy. And I actually have the stream going right now. I'm listening to it on a YouTube in the background. So if something big happens, we'll definitely join in and listen to that as it goes on. But it's just absolutely insane because this is the first time that a sitting U.S. president has actually attended a session of the Supreme Court. Many times they've sent this. Well, there's always a solicitor general there, but many times there have been representatives of the president's cabinet attending these hearings, arguments, but never has a sitting U.S. president done it. And some people are calling it intimidation. And I'm sitting here looking at myself going, intimidation? Those Supreme Court justices face all sorts of different types of pressure every day. Justice Kavanaugh had a bunch of crazies marching down the street, and the federal police had to protect them. The sitting U.S. president sitting in the courtroom, yeah, they're going to acknowledge him, but these are professional jurists. These are the supreme arbiters of the Constitution of the United States of America. The order has been blocked by lower courts for conflicting with the 14th Amendment, which grants citizenship to anyone born in the United States with historical rulings such as United States versus Wong Kim Ark. And this is the liberal spin going around and trying to say, we've got precedents on this. So does Dred Scott. That had precedents. Sometimes it's not right. And as I was listening to the arguments, a lot of them were going back to what did we mean when we passed the 14th Amendment? And that's going to be the real argument for this case. What did we mean when what were the framers thinking? What were the people thinking when we passed the 14th Amendment? What was the mindset? And this country is in the fight of its life right now. We can talk about Iran and the Straits of Hormuz and all of that craziness. You can continue to send me fake AI images of the USS Abraham Lincoln getting blown up or Delta Force troops getting caught and supposedly taken hostage by Iran. It's all a bunch of BS. The real fight, as I see it, is for the American mind. And folks, if I'm being truthful, it ain't looking good, fam. It ain't looking good. We are all tuned and locked in to our cellular devices. We're looking for that great next big headline. We talked about it yesterday. There's one today. Might get to it, might not. But the critical thinking skills of the average American today is absolute hot garbage. It's a steamer. It ain't looking good, and I don't mean to be so negative during Holy Week, but, um, it just seems to me that, America is gonna have to fall before it can pick itself back up again. Because just sitting there looking at some of the arguments that some people who are highly educated, and we've got a story on high education as well. They sit there and they are making opinions and statements based off their feelings and not about the facts and reality. But you want the facts? Here are the facts. The order, if President Trump's executive order stands, would affect about 2,500 and 255,000 children born annually in the United States. So our voting power gets diluted by 255,000 every year. So if those every year another roughly 255,000 new voters come on the roll because they've been here for so long and it's going to keep multiplying and growing exponentially. Tell me that that's not going to completely rechange the way the United States is. We were sitting there, Gen X, fighting the global war on terror, while the liberal left and the globalists were like, "Hey, we know we can't defeat the United States militarily. We can't defeat the United States economically. We have to change their culture, and we do it slowly." And as they're having the illegal immigrants illegally immigrate and infiltrate into the United States, it slowly changes the demographic. We slowly get Dearborns. We slowly get Minneapolises, Seattle's, Portland's, changes New York. It's changing Jackson, and you don't even know it. Let me get back to this. The order would affect about 255,000 children born annually in the United States and raises concerns about creating a stateless children who would be denied citizenship or basic services. Yep, you break the law. You break the law. There's consequences for it. In China, they have 500 businesses where they have Chinese women come to America, have their babies, and then go back to China, and their kids are American citizens being raised in China. I heard that during the argument. What's that telling you? The Chinese are always 100 years ahead of in their battle plan. That kid's gonna get a Chinese education, be indoctrinated into communism, and then he's gonna say, "I'm an American citizen. I wanna come back to America in 19 years. I wanna go to the University of Illinois. I wanna go to Ole Miss. I wanna go to Mississippi State. I'm an American citizen." I might have to pay the out-of-state tuition, but that's okay because the CCP will pick it up for me. Chinese Communist Party, for those of you who don't know. It's absolutely frightening how they've taken all this time and planned this so meticulously, and it's falling into place, and even though the pattern has been exposed and I'm not the only person talking about this, there's lots of people talking about it, some more eloquently than I, but there are plenty of people talking about it, exposing the plan, showing exactly what's happening, and yet no one is doing anything about it. And then when the president does do something about it, "Oh, he's a racist, he's anti-immigrant, he's anti-American." The people who are claiming this can't even tell you what the 15th Amendment of the United States is. Not the 14th, the 15th. What's the 23rd Amendment? We start sitting there and playing these games, "Oh, we love the Constitution, we need to protect it." They don't even know what's in it. They can't even tell you about the different amendments, let alone the different sections and articles. And half of the lawyers who get paid to do this stuff get paid to from a liberal point of view, not a constructional point of view. a traditionalist point of view, what the framers thought. And as time goes on, those of us who are traditionalists, we don't pass our values on. Well, we try to, but it doesn't work. And we get more and more liberal. And it's not to say that we can't come back and pull ourselves out of this mess. We can, but it's gonna take so much work. And having to go to the Supreme Court every time we got a problem is not helping. It's slowing the momentum. And the one thing we can say about America is that we are the popcorn generation. We like our results instant. If we've gotta nuke something for more than 2 minutes and 30 seconds, we're wondering what's wrong. We want the filet mignon steak. We want the picanha cut, and we want it served right away. Never mind, it takes an hour and a half, 2 hours to really cook a steak the right way. We want it done, and we want it right now. And conservatives and liberals are that way. Not just Americans, actually, humans are that way. We want instant gratification, and our anxiety devices bring that instant gratification. I had people message me, checking in with me yesterday, "Hey, Andy, I love the show. What are you doing to unwind?" I'm like, "I'm about to turn off my cell phone and go watch a movie or go read a book." I'm reading a book called The Avatar right now. It's actually quite interesting. Gets really into the culture of feminism. And if you think that this is the first time that feminism has been used to try to take down a culture, you would be wrong. It's a great book. The more and more I find myself unplugging from my phone, the better off I'm doing. And it's not that I'm saying that we need to get rid of technology and go away, but we have to by our own volition, our own conviction, our own critical thinking skills realize, staring at your cell phone or staring at a screen for 15, 16 hours a day doesn't work. I had to tell my daughter, I'm like, "Why do you stay on the phone till 11 o'clock at night? You say you're going to bed at 9:30. I get staying up for half hour, whatever, but you do realize there's this thing called sleep hygiene, and it takes your brain time to wind down. But don't worry about it. Pfizer will make a pill for that too. The Supreme Court arguments on illegal immigration continue to rage on. Um, from the 35 minutes that I got to actually listen to arguments this morning as I was prepping for the show, I was mildly optimistic. I wouldn't say cautiously optimistic. I'm a bit above cautious. Mildly optimistic. There were some hard-hitting questions, and I'm talking about on our side, if you are against illegal immigrants getting, citizenship to their kids, you should be mildly optimistic. We already know that there's gonna be, uh, 3 votes against this, but when I hear Amy Coney Barrett asking questions that I'm like, "Hmm, that's pretty good." When I hear the Chief Justice opening remarks, I'm like, "Hmm, that's pretty good." Justice Clarence Thomas, the brilliance of that man, the pure brilliance of that man, being able to ask a 15-word question and then say nothing and just listen to the solicitor general just sit there in silence and just go, We got lucky with Justice Clarence Thomas, ladies and gentlemen. Good man, good man. Last line from the Ground News article, and right now there's not too many stories on it. I've got Boston Globe, Bloomberg, CNBC, CBC News. But the last portion of this here is President Trump attended the Supreme Court hearing, making it the first time a sitting U.S. president has done so, with opponents describing the case as radical and unprecedented reinterpretation of citizenship law. No, you just don't get to move to France and become a citizen of France. You got to go through laws. And the perverted version of United States immigration law that is perpetuated on us by the liberal left and the Democrats needs to be stopped. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
Application of the rule of decision. The rule of decision in Wong Kim Ark has binding precedential effect. Even if you think that Wong Kim Ark decided the case based on the stipulated facts, you have to follow that controlling rule of decision. And if you follow that rule, you get to the same result for people without domicile. Wong Kim Ark says 6 times in the first parts of the opinion, as well as on the page the government focuses on, that domicile is not relevant.
Well,
that
Ms. Wong, on that, what do we do with the fact that after Wong Kim Ark, at least some authorities took the view that the non-domiciliary question wasn't decided, remained open, and even continued to press the view that domicile is required? Now, I know you've got a lot of good stuff on your side too, but what do we do with the fact that many sound legal authorities thought it remained an open question, even if one of them wasn't John Marshall Harlan?
I liked your example from Justice Harlan's lecture here in DC. So here's what I would say. All of the government's citations in their brief generally either were rejected by Wong Kim Ark expressly if they predated Wong Kim Ark.
If we're trying to understand how the legal community understood what happened in Wong Kim Ark,
Sure.
It seems to me it's a mess.
So
maybe you can persuade me otherwise.
I think I can, Justice Gorsuch. First, as to the post-Wong Kim Ark authorities the government cites, each one of them is inconsistent with Wong Kim Ark's reasoning or doesn't mention it at all. Most of them have very little reasoning at all. And in contrast, what we have on our side post-Wong Kim Ark is numerous federal court decisions around the time of Wong Kim Ark, between ratification and Wong Kim Ark, that said that domicile is not relevant. They cited Lynch versus Clark, which again was about the daughter of temporary sojourners. We have the 6th edition of Kent, which was cited in Wong Kim Ark, and of course was then cited after Wong Kim Ark was decided by many authorities. Again,
Oh, yeah, it is the dulcet tones of the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 1039 WYAB. Yep. Look, the Supreme Court arguments are going on right now. I want to try to do something I've never done before. We're going to join in progress the arguments here.
So a couple years before Wonky Mark, but in 1896, State Department regulation, which said the U.S.-born children of foreign nationals are U.S. citizens, accepting only the children of ambassadors. And then you have Marshall Woodworth, who is a U.S. attorney who writes
And we're
in the Law
listening
Review
to
article
the liberal
that
side of the arguments
he's
right now.
talking specifically about temporary sojourners' children, and he says, I don't think that's a good rule from a policy perspective, but that's the general rule.
Ms. Wang, can I
Yes.
offer a possible explanation for why Justice Gray made a point of putting domicile in what he said was the holding of the case? And it is this. Wong Kim Ark and his parents, had they come to the United States from Europe, could have been naturalized. But because they were Chinese, they could not be naturalized. And they had done everything that they could to make themselves American.
And they continue to argue that out well above my pay grade, and they're going to continue to fight that. And we're going to continue to see the problem with judges. And it's a theme. I get texts on it all the time. Andrew, I appreciate that you talk about all the crazy judges. Andrew, I don't like that you talk about all the judges. Listen, these are just headlines coming out in the last day. U.S. judge says University of Pennsylvania must give agency lists of Jewish students. Judge blocks Trump White House ballroom project from going forward. Judge upholds U.S. government approval on loners Nevada lithium mine. Judge rules that HUD effort to change criteria for homeless funding is unlawful. Judge rules Trump unlawfully terminated status of migrants who used the U.S. entry app. You are just seeing all of these lower level judges make all of these crazy, wild, almost cuss there, wild rulings that are going to have to end up either A, being overturned by the appellate court, or ultimately going to the Supreme Court. At what point do we say that our lower level judges on the federal bench need to go? And I can click on any of these links and we can go down those rabbit holes. One of these is really good. I have to go down that rabbit hole. Judge blocks White House ballroom project, quote unquote, for now. And what's funny, well, let's just get into it. On Tuesday, U.S. District Judge Richard Leon blocked President Trump's $400 million White House ballroom project, granting a preliminary injunction that halts construction on the site of the demolished East Wing. We're already down the road. We're already doing great stuff here, and we're gonna call a halt to this. It makes no sense. And what people don't realize, what's also going on, is they're upgrading the medical facility inside the White House. They're improving the bomb bunkers that are inside the White House. And they're putting on some other classified stuff that is listed in the article, and you can go to read the article, but I don't feel like I need to read it because I'll look too much into it and I'll start going down places I don't need to go to. Biological, chemical type of attacks. They're upgrading the White House. And the thing is, in the past, the presidents have just upgraded the White House. And here's this judge, this leftist judge, going ahead and saying, you know what, I don't feel that it's right. Never mind that past presidents have made changes to the White House before without congressional approval, without going through all this other crazy rigmarole that the left all of a sudden feels that you need to do. It's absolutely breathtaking to me to watch our country being taken down by a bunch of people who wear black robes. and those of us who go to work for a living, who want to do something but can't because we can't afford to take the time off to go to DC to protest, to go to Jackson and protest. I mean, when you see the right out there protesting, you know it's got to be something special. But today in front of the Supreme Court, nope, they had their judges out there, or their protesters out there with that silly drum and the tambourine, trying to relive Woodstock. It's absolutely, we are living in very dangerous and precarious times, where the rules of our founding fathers, who gave us a representative republic, and we can keep it if we fight for it, but it's like we don't want to keep it anymore. We let our judges run rogue. They go rogue all the time. I saw no less than 3 stories where leftist judges, all happen to be female, let younger criminals who were in front of in their courtroom, let them off on a light sentence, only to go back and be in front of another judge within a month for doing something terrible and nasty. But it didn't feel right. That those 2 guys who got convicted of porn in Nebraska, one gets 25 years, the other one gets 3 years probation. It didn't feel right. You know, we are brought up in a society where we're supposed to respect law enforcement, we're supposed to respect the rule of law. These people who are up there, they don't respect the rule of law. Do you think those officers who conducted the raid on Afro Man, who's in concert tomorrow night down at Martin's in downtown Jackson, if you're going, you're going. I won't be there past my bedtime. But the Afro Man, do you think those judges or those officers had the rule of law in mind when they were doing what they were doing? Do you think that judge who was ruling on the Afro Man had the rule of law in mind? If anything, if you go watch the documentary and commentary on that case, you'll see that that judge did everything he could to rule in favor of those law enforcement officers who were just out of their mind. Think about this. They were trying to silence the Afro Man's freedom of speech. Now, I don't agree with everything the Afro Man said, but freedom of speech, we have that. I think maybe sometimes freedom of speech becomes irresponsible freedom of speech, but it doesn't rise to the level of yelling fire in a movie theater either. We have to do something as a society about these judges who are taking the rule of law and twisting it and perverting it into their own personal worldviews that are not grounded in the Constitution, but grounded in the leftist liberal rock gut mind, hive mind. And and man almighty, just tying this in a little bit further, there's another local story. Look, we're going to take a break. When we get back, I'll talk to you about another. Oh, yeah, lawmakers punt on Supreme Court redistricting, sending immigration and educational bills to the governor. This is coming from the Pulitzer Prize winning nonprofit news agency, the Mississippi Today. 2 bills that would have allowed lawmakers to make Mississippi's state Supreme Court districts fair for Black voters died with a Monday night deadline, likely guaranteeing a federal judge will redraw the maps. Never mind that the very bill that is making Mississippi redraw the maps is racist and bigoted to begin with. It's one of those things where the whole world is standing on its head. like Brother Rick talks about all the time, what are they throwing at us today to keep us sidelined from what's really happening? I think what's really happening is they're doing all these things to get us to the point to where it's going to be too late for people to plant food and grow and sustain themselves. I was listening to a podcast last night, and they were talking about how all of these population centers depend on processed food. And by population centers, anything that's more than 60,000 people is considered a population center. You can't produce enough food to feed all those people without advanced fertilizers, growing techniques. That's why some of y'all who have got property, land, and animals, hey, you might be in a little better place. I hope you believe in the Second Amendment as well. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Yep, we're back on the Andrew Gosser show, and this this one just kind of fell into my lap. I was watching or listening to a podcast, and there's this gal out on TikTok who transferred from Arizona to Ole Miss and now is transferring to Miami, and she's getting millions and millions of views. And if I can channel my inner chick here, it's like, so, like, I wanted to have a fun time. So, like, without even going to Oxford, like, I transferred to Oxford, and it's a small hick town, like, and there aren't any clubs. There's bars, but, like, there's no clubs. And, like, I'm 19, like, and she goes on for 7.5 minutes and talks about how awesome Oxford is because it's a small town and it doesn't have club scene. It doesn't have a big bar scene. It's all about the football. It's all about the small town feel. That's why we love Old Miss, fam. I'm a state guy, but I love Oxford. That's why we love Mississippi the way it is. We do not want it to be Miami. We do not want it to be Chicago. But you know the one thing that this future rocket scientist, NASA engineer, astronaut said? Didn't have one thing to say about the quality of her education. She's got a 3 video part series. I could barely make it through the first part of that, her TikTok. And let's be truthful, she is dressed the TikTok part. Guys, if you know, you know. Girls, if you know, you know. But it leads me into this right here. Most popular U.S. graduate degrees aren't worth the money. Study shows a very risky proposition. According to a study released by the Post-Secondary Education and Economics Research Center at American University, which was originally based on research from Yale Tobin Center for Economic Policy, degrees in social work, psychology, and curriculum and instruction have the potential to yield a 0 to negative return on investment, considering the full cost of those degrees. So think about this. We're all told to go to college, get a degree. You go ahead, you get your degree. Oh, now you got to go get your master's. College used to be something that meant something. A degree used to mean something. Now I'm not so sure. A graduate degree can benefit you financially in some circumstances, but it's a very risky proposition. Preston Cooper, a senior fellow at American Enterprise Institute, told the Washington Post. You want to make sure you are working with all the information. And it just continues to go through here. And people, we offer all these degrees, and most of them, you have a terrible net return on your investment. And I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up. If you just get your regular undergrad degree in social work, you're going to make, they say you should make $41,166 a year as a social worker. If you get your graduate degree, you make $55,590. But the actual expected salary, expected earnings during your graduate work is $21,000. When you put it into the calculator and calculate it all out, net return is 7% better pay for your graduate degree after you include all of the costs to go to school. 7%. Clinical psychology, $45,000 a year for undergrad, $57,000 with a graduate degree. 4% increase in your pay. Curriculum and instruction, aka teachers. This is about right. Mississippi's above the median in this. $47,000 for undergrad, $59,000 for a graduate degree, and it's a 4% increase in your pay. And Mississippi is over that. Psychology, this is crazy. 43,000 for undergrad, 61,000 for postgrad, -2% on your pay for getting a postgraduate degree after you fill in the cost of the education, your student loan, all of that. Education administration. Oh, we love these guys. You would think these guys would be making the bucks. 48,000 for undergrad, 68,000 for postgrad, 11% increase in your salary. I could go on and on and on. Nursing, undergrad is 70,000, postgrad is 108,000, but they say it's only a 24% increase in your pay after you factor in all the costs. Nursing's not bad. A Master of Public Administration, an MPA, 52,000 for undergrad, 80,000 for postgrad, and a 21% increase. So that's not too bad. A little bit better. Computer science, 11%. Civil engineering, 21%. You really don't have any real great returns unless you are a medical doctor, a lawyer, or a pharmacist. Respectively, if you're a medical doctor and you go on to finish your whole deal, you're getting 110% on your earnings after you pay off all of your medical or student loans, etc. A lawyer, 59%. Pharmacist, 114%. Pharmacist is the way to go. I had the chance when I got out of the military to go be a pharmacist, and I just didn't want to go do it. It just didn't excite me. Maybe that was the wrong career path for me to take. I don't know. But this just reinforces the fact that so many of us parents who are sending our kids off to these higher institutions of learning are having to grapple with. Parents, if your kid is getting a degree in underwater basket weaving or North African lesbian studies of the 1880s, you need to put the kibosh on that. Ixnay on the high school or the college, eh? You don't want that, and you have to be the parent, by the way, who puts your foot down and says, "You're being dumb here. You're not looking at all the stuff." Already getting the text coming in. Can you post the story? Yep, this is coming from the New York Post. And if my computer will go quick enough, I will post that on my X here most pronto. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
I discovered a deep love for Raising Cane's. Luckily, I get to try their brand new cane sauce Coke. Cheers.
I gifted my husband these pants, and now
Tuition that the framers of the 14th Amendment had. Contrary to the government's arguments now, they wanted to grow this country. They wanted to make sure we had a citizenry to populate the military, to settle the country. And they also had an intuition that was consistent with the founding aversion.
Oh, yeah. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYAB, where we're just talking and spitballing common sense. Texter says, and for whatever reason, Text app isn't doing it, but says AI is coming for all three of those jobs: doctors, lawyers, and pharmacists. It's true. Ever since Clay sent me that one podcast to listen to last week, my timelines have been completely infiltrated with AI news, and AI is having incredible increases. I know that they say there's going to be an AI bubble, to which I'm going to say most AIs will fail, a few will succeed. Grok and XAI will be one that succeeds. If you drive a Tesla right now, do you know you're part of the XAI Grok supercomputer hive mind? They're coming out with new apps and new tools to where you plug in your Tesla at night, you allow Tesla to use the chip inside your Tesla to do AI work. They're going to pay you money for that. No, I'm not going to say you're going to become rich because you have 5 Teslas and you're allowing them to be part of the AI hive mind. Not saying that. But there's ways that they're going to make money off of this. It's absolutely brutal. The arguments continue at the U.S. Supreme Court. I did listen to it. The other side is arguing their points, and I kind of listened to it during the break. Hard to really get a gauge of where the justices are thinking without actually going back and listening to everything thoughtfully. But people are texting in saying what jobs are going to be available after the AI revolution. Well, that's just it. I'm not sure. Could have anybody predicted that being a YouTube influencer would be innovation of the evolution of the internet? You've got YouTubers out there making millions of dollars a year, while you've got plumbers who are struggling to make it by. I think that's what scares people most about AI. Is that there's no certainty, and everybody likes certainty. Politics likes certainty. Your mayor likes certainty. Your spouse likes certainty. What certainty is for you might not be what is certainty for me. This is not an April Fool's joke, and in the next hour, we are going to talk about the Chicago Bull and the NBA and their religion. We are going to talk about NASA launching astronauts to fly around the moon. This is not an April Fool's joke, not an April Fool's joke. I know lots of people enjoy April Fools and have a good time doing that kind of thing. I've never been one for that kind of stuff. It's just not my cup of tea, but it might be yours. And if you and your spouse enjoy doing that kind of stuff, more power to you. But just not going to have that coming for me today. Just not going to have that coming for me today. We will have to absolutely talk about NASA We'll have to talk about what's going on in and around Mississippi, too. We got to scroll the local news sources. I know Brother Clay had Brother Kingfish on. And there's a couple news stories coming on with Jackson Jambalaya. Maybe we'll get to him. Mississippi Tribune. I got to say, well, we'll say that for the next hour, I guess. Man, I'll tell you what. Building relationships right now. What can you do to protect yourself from AI? Build solid relationships with friends and neighbors. You might have a disagreement with your neighbor. You better hope that you can get along with neighbors. And if you're in a city, good luck. Good luck, because it's going to be crazy. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9. We'll be right back.
Your home for original reporting.
Steve Kathan. President Trump said this morning on social media that Iran has asked for a ceasefire. Iran has denied it, and Trump is making news with additional comments.
I'm Vicki Barker in London. President Trump has told the Telegraph newspaper here that he's seriously considering pulling the USA out of NATO over the allies' reluctance to join the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran, a sentiment he echoed in a separate phone interview with the Reuters news agency. Trump referred to the alliance, co-founded by the U.S. in the ashes of post-war Europe, a paper tiger, and said Russian President Putin sees it that way too.
Well, President Trump has a primetime speech on Iran tonight, a day after saying the war would end in 2 to 3 weeks.
But there is no sign here in the Middle East of the war ending just yet anyway. The sirens rang out multiple times here in Tel Aviv this morning. We were in the bomb shelter, I think 4 times, and Israeli emergency responders say 14 people were injured by missile fire.
That's CBS's Holly Williams. President Trump spent some time at the U.S. Supreme Court listening to arguments on his plan to limit birthright citizenship.
Solicitor General John Sauer argued the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause was adopted to grant citizenship to freed slaves and their children, not to babies of people in the country illegally.
It has spawned a sprawling industry of birth tourism as uncounted thousands of foreigners from potentially hostile nations have flocked to give birth in the United States in recent decades, creating a whole generation of American citizens abroad with no meaningful ties to the United States.
President Trump is attending today's oral arguments. He's the first sitting president to ever do so. Michael Wallace, CBS News.
Construction on a new ballroom at the White House blocked by a court, at least for now. CBS's Ed O'Keefe.
Despite the court ruling, the ballroom plans are set for final approval Thursday from the National Capital Planning Commission, which has to approve major construction projects in Washington. But D.C. Council Chairman Phil Mendelson, who sits on the panel, worries the president is moving too quickly.
I also get that as a former developer that Donald Trump can be impatient.
It's all systems go at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida for NASA's moon launch later today. Our space consultant, Bill Harwood.
They're well into fueling right now. They're past the point where we had leaks earlier this year with the hydrogen tank in that first stage. So that is proceeding smoothly. There are no indications of any technical problems at this point.
Hershey says it will use classic recipes for all Reese's products starting next year. The grandson of the Reese's founder had blasted the use of cheaper ingredients. Wall Street, the Dow is up 454 points. This is CBS News.
It's one of the most successful law and justice programs in television history that continues to uncover the truth. 48 Hours, Saturday on CBS and streaming on Paramount.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free no-risk consultation. 800-265 800-265-7681. 800-265-7681. You have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. 800-265-7681.
News brought to you this hour by Lee's Old Country Store Antiques and Collectibles on Highway 22 in Flora. The Childress sisters have treasures new and vintage.
They're just not happy with the Jackson Water Authority Act. 84 this afternoon at a 40% chance that you could see a scattered shower. Tonight, mostly cloudy and 65. Thursday, another 40% rain chance with a high at 84. A slight chance for rain Friday and a 70% chance Saturday. You've got news on 103.9 WYAB. I'm Chris Davis. Jackson City leaders say they will not have enough control over their own water system, despite being the ones with the most skin in the game as far as money goes. In a prepared statement expressing displeasure with the Jackson Water Authority Act, the city says the bill does not clearly establish how major decisions will be made or who will bear responsibility if the authority cannot generate enough revenue to meet its obligations. No trial April 6th as it was scheduled. Stephen Pittman, the man from Madison, accused of arson and other federal charges in the burning of the Congregation Beth Israel Synagogue, has been successful in getting a continuance or a delay while his lawyers do more evidence sifting. A new date has not been scheduled. A 16-year-old girl was stabbed to death by a 15-year-old classmate in Kosciuszko Monday, say police there. Coroner Sam Bell ID'd the victim as Nina Dillon, and police ID'd the person they believe stabbed her as Takia Fletcher. She is being held at the Leake County Jail. Maybe people will want to come back if the new rules are tweaked, says Hell's St. Patty's Parade organizer Malcolm White. He's calling this year's parade a success despite the noticeable decline in attendance, which he says might be because of the new safety and cleanup rules. Mississippi gas goes up more than a nickel overnight and is now $3.63 on average, says Gas Buddy. More news in 1 hour on 103.9 WYAB. I'm Chris Davis.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are the individual views and opinions of the people expressed.
Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. Second hour, here we go. We're streaming on Rumble. We're streaming on X. We're streaming on YouTube. And we're streaming at the mothership that is WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch that is 103.9 WYAB, go ahead, like, share, and subscribe to the stream. Would really greatly appreciate it. Posted that story on colleges on my X account. If you're not following me there, you should. At Andrew Gosser, ANDREW GASSER. Phone number if you want to talk, 601-879-0002. Text line is open. People are texting about all sorts of stuff, not necessarily topics that we're talking about, so I'm kind of pushing them to the side today. Text line is open, though, 601-879-5060. And the mission here is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. I planted it, Apollos watered it, but it was God that gave the increase. I meant to talk about this show yesterday before it actually blew up and every social media podcaster streamer came out with stories starting at around 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. But I can remember growing up and watching the Chicago Bulls. Jordan, Pippen, John Paxson, Horace Grant. Man, the first three was money. The intro was gave you chills. It still gives me chills to this day if you just hear the music. Lots of people copy it, man. Remember, I used to go to the old Chicago Stadium and they had the bull running through, and it was awesome. And to this day, people have standing arguments about who was the best team in the NBA. Some people say it was Showtime. That would be the Lakers. Some people say it would be the Celtics back in the 50s. Some people say it's some of these newfangled teams. I don't know because I don't watch, but my son Noah, he follows the Milwaukee Bucks. He's got his favorite player, somebody named Giannis. I don't even know because I don't follow the NBA anymore. But what I do know is that the NBA loves religion. It does. And the NBA has bent its knee to the unholy altar that is the LGBTQ altar. And you can say whatever you want about any religion, but don't you dare proclaim Jesus. In some sports, in America, they're actually putting the names of the players in Arabic on the back of their jersey. I saw that on a football jersey. And I don't know, and when I checked it for AI, it came back as not AI. It was real. So I have to assume that my AI checker was good. Bulls wave guard Jaden Ivey after anti-gay comments. And look, we'll get into his comments here in a minute. The Chicago Bulls waived guard Jaden Ivey for conduct detrimental to the team Monday, hours after he posted lengthy video rant on social media about religion and other topics that included anti-gay sentiments. Yeah, there are lots of us who are sick and tired of having Pride Month shoved down our neck. One of the first shows I did here, when I had my own shows, I declared that I wanted my birth month back. It's not Pride Month. It should be Veterans Month. It should be something besides that. A whole entire movement that has completely captured and co-opted a culture on sexuality that doesn't even get you anywhere. It's not like you can reproduce. It's just biologically impossible. And now when you come out and start talking about that, especially from a biblical point of view, which is, by the way, what our whole country was founded on, whether you like it or not, now all of a sudden you're a detriment to the team. Ivy has gone live on his Instagram account more frequently in the past week, pointing at least 3 lengthy videos after he was shut down for the rest of the season by the team because of the injury last Thursday. So I've had a couple of people reach out to me and thinking that the Bulls just want to get out of his contract. He got hurt. And this allows him to do it because it's conduct detrimental to the team, so they don't have to honor the money that they owe him. On Monday morning, he called out the NBA for promoting Pride Month, saying it celebrates unrighteousness. Well, it's true. You can go do those things, and I'm not going to sit there and scream in your face. But if you ask me what do I think, I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to be like some of these protesters out there, and we see them. We saw them today outside the Supreme Court with their drums and tambourines, flying the rainbow supremacy flag. By the way, if you ever notice a LGBTQ rainbow, has 6 colors, not 7. Go look. The world proclaims LGBTQ, right? Everybody, we all got to do it. We all got to do it. We're like lemmings running off the edge of the cliff. Well, we're all doing it, so let's do it. They proclaim Pride Month, and the NBA does too. They show it to the world. They say, come and join us for a month of Pride to celebrate unrighteousness. It's what it is. It is. And I mean, you look at, let's just be truthful. Let's be honest about it. Some of the stuff that group of people is promoting is true Sodom and Gomorrah type stuff. honestly, it's kind of what the United States marketing system has turned into, Sodom and Gomorrah. You sit there and look at a YouTube video, and I'm like, why the heck am I getting pushed this crap? I didn't click on anything bad. I didn't go and do a sneaky VPN link. I didn't do any of that. And yet we're getting it pushed down our throats daily. Hypersexualizing young girls, hypersexualizing young boys. Not even hypersexualized, exploiting, taking advantage of. Quiet on the set. Quiet on the set. If you haven't watched it on Rumble yet, you need to. You'll see what I'm talking about. The Bulls said my conduct is detrimental to the team. Why didn't they just say, hey, we don't agree with his stance on LGBTQ? Why didn't they just say that? How is it that conduct detrimental to the team? What did I do to the team? What did I do to the players? And the truth is, nothing. But the players are getting a check, and they don't want to cut off their gravy train. And it's just easier to keep their mouth quiet and wear the rainbow supremacy colors for a few games and collect that bank than to have a stand on principle, which is something that I agree with my friend Gabriel Olivier and Coleman Boyd on when they do their straight pitching. They stand on their principle. They know they're going to get cut down. They know that they're going to anger people, but they're not selling out either. And we all like to say that we would take a stand on our principle and we wouldn't compromise ourselves or betray ourselves in any way, shape, matter, form, nature, relationship. And I can tell you that it's very difficult to do. I've done it. I could have gone a very different path politically. And I'm just keeping 100 with you. Always want to be honest. When I had that money presented in front of me, I just didn't say no right away. I actually thought about it. I'm thinking, man, all three of my kids, full college ride. All three of my kids employed with six-figure salaries. I'll be the highway commissioner forever until I want to leave. I'll have fundraisers. The public will love me. I just got to do X. And honestly, X didn't even take any manual labor. I just had to agree to something that was against my biblical principles and my philosophy, my own personal character, my own morality. And I'm telling you, and anybody who just says, oh, I wouldn't do it just based on principle and storm right off, I question them. Because when you're placed with that kind of generational wealth, it's tough to turn down. And those who do turn it down, like Jaden Ivey, excuse me, he's done. He's cooked in the NBA. Now he could always come back and file a lawsuit and a grievance, I guess. I don't know if the union, here's me. Hey, here's me talking pro-union. My God, if the union ever had a purpose, this would be it. Is the union going to protect Jaden Ivey for his personal beliefs and his First Amendment free speech? He wasn't going out there screaming, kill the Jews. He wasn't out there saying, kill the Christians or kill the Muslims. He just said that LGBTQ was unrighteous. And the truth is, it is. LGBTQ has higher suicide rate, more depression rate, on more pills, on more SSRIs. Not even debatable. And don't even get the trans part of it plugged in there. That's even higher than the LGB part. They have to put the T plus Q LMNOP part. So I started doing some research. I asked Grok the question, NBA honoring LGBT in the last 10 years. The first year was 2013 to 2014. Jason Collins became the first actively open gay NBA player. 2016 was a major ramp-up year. In 2017, individual teams started having their LGBTQ nights. Specifically, examples include Brooklyn Nets honoring Jason Collins with a rainbow jersey for their first Pride night, and the LA Lakers hosting their first in 2018. Ongoing league efforts include anti-bullying with GLAAD every third Thursday in October, Trans Day visibility events. Hey, which isn't that supposed to be on Easter? Didn't Biden make it coincide with Holy Week? I can't remember. Specific thing they do now is rainbow-themed giveaway jerseys and court elements, halftime performances and guest speakers, donations and spotlights of local LGBTQ plus nonprofits. The NBA has been completely co-opted into a culture. And let's be truthful, too. The culture is real. It is a culture war. The NBA culture now, we're just being truthful. There's not many white guys playing basketball. For whatever reason, we just don't get selected. We're not as athletic. We can't run as fast. We can't jump. We can't shoot. That's not to say that there aren't great white basketball players. White Chocolate comes to mind. Larry Bird comes to mind. There have been some good ones. But this LGBTQ environment has infiltrated into the Black community. And we see it. So that's the first thing. Revenue growth has revenue increased in the NBA because everybody says that the NBA is dying. Well, if you look at revenue by season in 15-16, 5.9 billion, 7.4 billion the next year, 8.0 billion the next year, 8.8 billion the next year. They're at $12.25 to $12.5 billion a year. So everybody who's saying the NBA is dying, you might be onto a point, but they're not seeing it financially yet. I then Googled and researched, or grokked and researched attendance. Attendance is up. In 2015 to 16, total attendance was 21.9 million. In 2024, 2025, 22.23 million people. So they're still basically selling out. At least they're selling the tickets. I'm not saying people are actually showing up, but that's what they're selling out. But this is where it tells you that they're losing the culture war. In 2015, 19.9 million people watched the Warriors versus the Cavaliers. 19.9 million. In 2025, average view was 10.3 million. And this is coming from Grok and Wikipedia and 5 other sources. They're trying to spin it saying that it's up, but it is down considerably. People don't want to see the LGBTQ stuff thrown down their throats. Good on Jaden for stepping up to the plate. Of course, ESPN writes this total hit piece on him by Jamal Collier. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens to Jaden Ivey after speaking up about his faith. I wonder if a Jewish basketball player spoke up on his faith, would they do the same thing? Or if a Muslim spoke up on his faith, did the same thing? You know, Islam doesn't agree with homosexuality. The left is starting to figure this out, and they're having issues with it, especially over in cities that have already been conquered by the radical Islam movement, such as England, France, Germany, Spain. But I digress. It's Holy Week. We're supposed to be focusing on God. And here's a Chicago Bulls player who was calling out unrighteousness. He gone. You listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
to inherited rights and
Do you support Israel and the Jewish?
And we are back here at the Andrew Gosser Show. I definitely need to switch to Linux. During the break, we just had a computer crash, and you might have heard advertisement that was the live stream for the U.S. Supreme Court hit case going on, and it was running a commercial because my computer decided it needed to reboot, and it's still doing crazy stuff. I'll tell you what, Microsoft has completely turned into a hot pile of steaming trash. I don't want Copilot on my Microsoft Word or Excel or PowerPoint. I can do that myself. I don't need AI to teach me how to do that crap. I can do it myself. And I guess that's the big difference that's going to happen between Generation X and Gen Z and Gen A is they're all about the speed. And yes, AI can do stuff that I can do a lot quicker. But it's also the learning and the time component that goes into it that forces your brain to think a certain way. That's what gets me. And for me personally, I can't stand Microsoft. It like completely throws off my train of thought when I'm getting ready to go into the next segment of my show. And Microsoft thinks that it's a great idea to update my computer. Maybe they're all LGBTQ and they just enjoy fooling with my computer. I would say I'm crazy. Might be a little bit Alex Jones type, but you never know. Well, today is April Fool's Day, and it's no joke. NASA is going to try to launch astronauts to go around the moon today in the Artemis 2 mission. And I'm going to take a hot take here, but NASA is not what it used to be. It's not doing nearly what it should be doing with the money that we've invested in it. This Artemis project has gone through several iterations. It started off as the Constellation project with the Ares 1 and Ares 5 rocket. Ares 1 was basically a solid rocket motor that had the Orion on top. It flew one time in 2009 to the tune of about $2 billion, and it failed. It was terrible. I can remember watching it live on TV and watching all my NASA friends around me who worked on it go, uh-oh. It didn't blow up, but it didn't do what it was supposed to do. Solid rocket motors are the same things that are used in missile technology, Sidewinder, AIM-9X, AIM-120 AMRAAM. Very bumpy ride, very noisy, very uncomfortable for human purposes. It was a bad idea. We got rid of it. Senator Nelson then turned it into something called the Space Launch System. Some people called it the Senate Launch System. And it iterated and chugged along till about 2019 to where it turned into the Artemis system. And again, I'm just using the Grok numbers here. It's estimated, and for this, it pulled up from 45 sources, from NBC to NPR to Wiki. So my sources on this are pretty good. And this is just through 2022. SLS development alone has been $24 billion through 2022. So we don't know what the last $4 billion are, or the last 4 years are. The Orion space capsule, souped up Apollo, $20 billion. So combined SLS efforts, or combined SLS and Orion Artemis program, is at least $44 billion. And we are about to launch humans on it for the first time. We're going around the moon. It did go around the moon successfully last time on its test flight. But it's interesting because this was supposed to streamline American human access to space by maximizing the innovations and technology used in the space shuttle. The engines on the core of the Artemis rocket that we'll be launching today all have flown in space before on previous space shuttle missions. Now, I want to juxtapose this to all my Elon haters out there. We just had a Falcon 9 launch the other day. I think it was on Monday. That rocket flew for the 34th time. It had 34 successful launches, 34 successful landings. Over the course of 4 years, NASA made an investment in SpaceX of $1.9 billion. And SpaceX took out a loan for an additional $2 billion from the government, which, surprisingly, SpaceX paid back the U.S. government with interest on that. So we actually made money off of SpaceX. What did we get for that? We got reliable access to low Earth orbit. We've got reliable access to shoot our scientific missions to Mars and beyond. We've got reliable access to humans to the International Space Station. SpaceX is the most reliable access to the International Space Station we have out there. We're more reliable than Boeing. We're more reliable than the Russians. Well, I think we're back. Nothing came out there. Let's see if it happens again. You just can't make it up, man. But SpaceX is more reliable than the Russians. They're more reliable than the Chinese. They fly more. They're an independent company. And they're using the investment of the American taxpayer dollar put into SpaceX for a manageable return. Everybody's talking about getting their fiber, their high-speed internet. It would be cheaper just to buy SpaceX terminals and do it that way and be done with it. But that would be disrupting the technology. That would be disrupting the military-industrial complex. What's happening in NASA, and we should all enjoy the launch today. We pray Godspeed for our 4 astronauts who are going around the moon. These are going to be the humans that have gone further away from the moon or from Earth than any other human before. They're going to go farther away than the Apollo astronauts did. They're going to have a good trip. And we're praying for their safety, and they have a good trip. But make no mistake about it, this was an incredible waste of the U.S. taxpayer dollar on this. And I know Wayne Hale, who ran the space shuttle program, ostracized me on an open forum when we were asked what's the best thing that could happen to NASA. And I said, well, a hurricane comes and wipes the VAB off the face of the planet so that we couldn't use the buildings already there. All new rocket companies that are building rockets now are not using Apollo era infrastructure. They're getting rid of it. But not this. This program has spent over $280 million building a launch pad, a mobile launch pad, that they stopped a year ago because they ran out of money. $200 million for a launch pad. SpaceX builds them and tears them down in months, and they're building more. American excellence should never be substituted for government oversight. What makes America great is our individual entrepreneurial spirit. And you don't have to necessarily be born in America to have it. But America is the one place in the world where you can go out and have excellence. And I just wanted to comment on that because I'm a big space nerd. Many of you who know me know that I'll be tuned in watching. And it's important that we understand that if we would have taken this money and invested it into other things space-wise, would have been a lot better off. You are tuned in to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
Isn't it a little bit homophobic that we're so focused on the Straits of Hormuz and not the gays of Hormuz?
Yes, I agree. Yes, for sure.
Why do you think they're willing to leave the gays of
Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. I was just running this through my AI checker, and sometimes comedic genius just happens, and sometimes you just got to let things speak for itself. So without further ado, in 3, 2, 1, go.
Isn't it a little bit homophobic that we're so focused on the Straits of Hormuz and not the gays of Hormuz?
Yes, I agree. Yes, for sure.
Why do you think they're willing to leave the gays of Hormuz behind?
I think it's just historically, like, gays have always been very discriminated against, which is wrong on so many levels.
Even in war.
Yeah, even in war. It just takes more reform in government, obviously, and then also educating society.
Just feel like if we're going to go in there, we can't leave the gay people behind.
Right.
I don't think we should go in there at all, but if we're going to, the gays of Hormuz, we could turn it into Fire Island.
For sure.
Guys, you can't make this crap up. That lady votes. She is going to vote for your local prosecutor, your local school board, your local mayor, your alderman, your congressman, your state rep, your state senator, your governor, your sheriff, your prosecutor. She is a product of too much screen time and not enough farming, touching grass. She needs to get out to the BA farm and work the sheep. Speaking of sheep, we had another lamb this morning. It was pretty awesome. Craziness going on in the BA farm. People are already starting to put bets on whether or not the Supreme Court is going to side with Trump or if they're going to go the other way. But the AI says Supreme Court justices appear skeptical over Trump's changes to birthright citizenship rules. And this is coming from the New York Post. I like the New York Post. I do think they are left, but they're not afraid to put this stuff out there. Trump admin faces tough questions from skeptical justices over quirky birthright citizenship arguments. And I think I said that. They asked tough questions. And I said the Chief Justice asked questions. And we got to hear the liberal side, but we really didn't join in progress on the government side. But they're already starting to paint the narrative out there. I'm not sure why. And again, we talked about this on the program the other day, but Supreme Court sides with therapists in challenge of Colorado's ban on conversion therapy. Well, now the left has completely lost its mind and rear end over this ruling, and they don't know how to handle it. So they're immediately thinking of new ways to try to come back and reattack this issue. But when you have, I've got a people are asking me to retweet that. So there you go. It's done. Our society is in a downward spiral. And it all gets back to me personally. When I look at all the different stories, whether it be the court justice system complaining about conversion therapy, whether it be about Mississippi trying to redraw districts to favor minority voting based on race and not on the argument, we're getting just farther away from God. And especially in a week like this is supposed to be the one thing. I had this impassioned debate at the Shell when I was gassing up my car. This lady, we love each other, but if you saw us talk to each other, you'd think that we were ready to pop each other. She's a big lib, and she was talking about how great Easter is, and I'm like, it's right. It's the most important holiday of the year. Without Easter, none of the other holidays matter because it's all bogus. And she was talking about how important it is for her grandkids to be able to get Easter baskets and believe in the Easter bunny. And I casually listened to her, and I said, "You think it's more important that your kids know about a fictitious rabbit who poops Cadbury eggs than the Savior?" And she just looked at me for a second, and I know she goes to church, and she just looked at me, and she gave me these big eyes like she gives me when I really say something outrageous or outlandish. And sometimes her and I banter a little bit, and I do go down that road. But I could tell it hit a little bit different that time. And that's where we need to get to. And we need to be in the public square. It's not just 4 walls on a Sunday morning, maybe on a Wednesday night. It is about being in the culture, whether you're Jade or Jaden Ivey or Gabe Olivier or Coleman Boyd. We've got to stand up for our moral society, or we're not going to have it. And look, I know, I get it. There's lots going on. That's by design. Trump says he might consider pulling out of NATO. As someone who has been actively involved in NATO operations in the past, I can say I'm not against it. You know, we put all this money into NATO, keeping their military structure in place. You know, the best bases in England for their Air Force base, their air bases, are Air Force Base Lakenheath. They keep all their stuff there, along with our F-15s, Strike Eagles that we have permanently based over there. Germany's the same way, Spengalum. The NATO nations take all of our money, build up their bases. We run the bases, keep the upkeep and maintenance of it better than they ever could with their economies. The only economy that could keep up with the American economy is the German economy. And I'm not sure why the Deutsche Mark does as well as it does. But it's got power. They could keep up. But all these other NATO nations, they do their small little bit. And then they want us to come in and say, "No, we're not gonna go ahead and help." When really, the Straits of Hormuz, it's gonna suck in the United States for the next year or two if things truly go south. But we have the ability to rebound. These European nations, they don't have the economies. They don't have the structures in place. And right now they're overrun with an invading force that's worse than what we've got here in America. So tonight, the president is going to give a primetime speech in what's happening in Iran. Update on that. I'm not sure if he's going to touch on NATO, but I hope he does. Hopefully, the NASA launch goes well, and hopefully our astronauts come back okay. They're using the same capsule that they used a couple years ago, and I would be remiss if I didn't remind people that that capsule did have some reentry problems, had a bigger burn through than they anticipated. So we're going to see what happens here. All sorts of good stuff happening in the world today, all to keep us busy and turned and focused on things that perhaps we shouldn't be focusing on because they're really doing something that we all can't see yet. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show. We're going to take our last commercial break. We'll be right back. And we are back at the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. I won't let you down. I might say some things that anger you a little bit, might make you think a little bit, might make you change your mind a little bit. I was just thinking during the break about how far culture has fallen. And there's no better place to observe culture and where we're really at than at the Kroger or at the Walmart. And I continue to be amazed at how Kroger, if you want to know what good music is, Generation Z, Generation A, just go listen to the music that they're playing at Kroger. You notice how they don't play any modern music there. This is coming from Jackson Jambalaya, Prick of the Day. And he's got a video of a Houston judge just going full West Ham United on an IT guy who's just trying to fix his computer. It's worth the watch. I'm not going to put it on air, but it is definitely worth the watch. Magnolia Tribune got a decent story talking about the Supreme Court today on birthright citizenship. And I always try to plug the local news because that's our closest touch point to the news. Russ Latino, Sid Salter, Frank Corden, all these at the Magnolia Tribune, good stuff. And truthfully, if you consider yourself politically active, oh, I forgot to mention it. Speaking of that, started 30 minutes ago, Grip and Grin at Mama Hamill's, guest host or guest star or politician going to be there, Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann. Dang, I forgot to mention that. That was in my notes. I feel bad. I wanted this audience to go ask him questions. Still time to get there. Still time to ask. Go meet people. But Andrew, why are you promoting Delbert Hosemann? Because he's our lieutenant governor. Whether you like it or not, fam, he's the lieutenant governor. He's the one who drew the maps. Wouldn't it be great if someone could ask Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann, why did he draw the maps the way he did? Ask him his opinion on what he thinks about the Supreme Court and how they're going to rule on that. I mean, you have to have more in life than just flamethrowing whoever's in office. We have to work together. And where we can agree, we can agree. And where we disagree so in a way that is respectful to where the next time they see you, they don't go, oh, yeah, that guy, and just kick you to the curb. And I can continue to say that to up-and-coming conservative leadership who's going to be leading this party in another 5 or 6 years, but yet not always listened to. It's going to be a great evening this evening. The Sweet Bee has put together a Seder dinner, Christian style, and it's Holy Week. If you can't get down with that, then that's okay. But that's what we're going to be doing together, and it's always great to fellowship with friends and family, isn't it? I mean, whether you get together for a Seder dinner or to watch a football game, getting together with the friends and family, it's always the best. Highly encourage it. Always want to be hanging out with friends and family. Hot Wings Challenge. So enjoy their time together, everybody. We'll be back in about 22 hours. Take care, everybody. Be blessed and amen.